Okay, so we're going to be dealing with chapter 3 is about functions and graphing lines, things like that, right? So we're going to be doing some graphing. And this first assignment is really just about practicing, reminding yourselves how to graph stuff using t-tables, real simple. So when you pull up the 3.1 assignment, the first question is going to include a link to some text. And so that your job is to read that. It's from your online textbook. I know you guys don't really read the textbook often because you really don't need to that much. The notes I put up from class are probably the best things to look at, and that's what most people would tend to do. You do need to occasionally take a look at the textbook though, and here's why. The research shows, and this is really kind of not, I don't think this is a positive thing, but in college math classes, the biggest predictor of success, sadly, is the ability to read a textbook. How come? In college, how are you expected to learn most of the stuff that you're by yourself from a textbook? Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way it is. So you got to get used to reading a textbook a little bit because the language is a little bit different. So do yourself a favor and make sure you are reading the textbook periodically. So read that. The question 2, I attached some short videos that are really, really short. You can, if you feel like you need to watch those, you can just use your earbuds and open those up and watch those. And then there's a very short assignment to do. The other thing is I'm not quite done with this class yet, but very shortly, everybody who's turned in work, most of you do, but some of you still don't, have feedback from me and links and stuff. Make sure you're looking at those, right? That's really important. So for today, here's the quick thing I want to just literally take like just a couple minutes and review something. So when you're graphing stuff in the XY plane, let's just remind ourselves, take a little tour of the XY plane here. We know that the horizontal axis is the x-axis, the vertical axis is the y-axis, and when we talk about the way we organize the quadrants, because those axes cut the infinite xy plane up into 4 pieces, right? Quadrant 1 is home base. That's where both the x and the y coordinates are positive. Quadrant 2 is, we're going to move counterclockwise around the origin. Quadrant 2 is where the x values are negative, but the y values are positive. Quadrant 3 is where both of them are negative, and quadrant 4 is where the x coordinates are positive, but the y coordinates are negative. Remember that when we write an ordered pair, we always put the x coordinate first and then the y coordinate, right? And for example, if our ordered pair is 2, -4, an x coordinate of +2 means starting from the origin, I'm going +2 in the x direction, and -4 in the y direction means down 4, right? Give me 1 to 5 on that. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen this thousands of times. No big deal. Okay, so we're going to be graphing some linear equations in this assignment. And linear equations are equations that make lines. How do we know that they're linear? Well, for now, we're going to talk a lot more about this in chapter 3. We'll spend quite a bit of time talking about lines, reminding ourselves about lines, and I'll show you some new stuff, some new things to do with lines. Anytime we can write the equation if we wanted to using algebra in the form y equals mx plus b, and you've seen that before, that's just slope-intercept form. We'll review that. Where m is a number and b is a number, if I can put it into that form, even if I don't do it, then that means it's linear. Like, so for example, y equals 10x is linear, it's in that form, right? Because it's in the form y equals some number times x plus another number, in this case 0, right? Plus 0. Okay, when I have an equation, how do I graph the line? How many points are required, we'll talk more about this later, to graph a line? 2, right? That's all I need are 2 points. So we're going to be doing a lot of graphing lines, and every time we do it, our goal is to create 2 points and then just connect and extend those 2 points. So here's where we get to use t-tables. Give me a 1 to 5 on t-tables. You guys have probably used these a ton, right? T-tables are super, super valuable. We're going to use them a lot. T-tables, we always write vertically with an x column and a y column, and then I'm just going to plug in values of x and calculate the corresponding values of y from the equation. So for example, the easiest one to plug in is almost always 0. If I plug in an x value of 0, what do I get back for y? Well, y would equal 10 times 0, which is what? 0. So I get the point 0, 0. So I would just create the point 0, 0 in the xy plane. I need one more, right? You guys have done this. So all I'd have to do is plug in another x value. Like, for example, 1. Well, if I plug 1 in for x, what do I get for y, everybody? 10. So I get the point 110. So over 1 and up 10. And there's my 2 points. And then I would just, well, that's a terrible line, isn't it? Then I would just connect and extend. I'm going to cheat. This is a lot better. What if I do this? Oh, look at that. Much better. Oops. There's my line, right? Everybody see that? Okay, what about one like that guy? Okay, there's 2 things I could do. Is it linear? It is, because I could put it in the form y equals some number times x plus some number by just moving that term over to the other side, subtracting it, right? So I could put it in the form y equals negative 2x plus 2, mx plus b. I could. I don't have to. Let's just say we leave it like this. That's fine. I can still do my t-table trick. If I plug in a value of x equals 0, well, what's that going to give me? If I plug in 0 for x, I get the equation 2 times 0 plus y equals 2. What's 2 times 0? 0. So that term I just get y equals 2. So there's my ordered pair, 0, 2, right? Over 0 up 2 is right there. Okay, let's do another one. What if I pick x equals 2? Okay, if I plug 2 in, here, I'm going to make this one green so we can distinguish it. So then if I plug in x equals 2, that gives me 2 times 2 plus y equals 2. Let's solve that for y. That's a piece of cake. What's 2 times 2? 4. So 4 plus y equals 2. What does y equal? Negative 2. Okay, so I get the point 2, negative 2. So over 2, down 2. There's my point. And then all I have to do to create my line is just connect and extend. Okay. How do we do that in my math lab for school? Because that's where you're going to be doing your assignment. So in my math lab for school, we would just do something like this. Okay, so here's an example of a line, an equation. We want to plot this. So all I'm going to do is make a t-table, right? Just going to make a t-table. Okay, so if I make a t-table, let's see if I can remember how to do this. This is a little different. I have to go, is that it? No, shoot, where is it? Right there. Okay, so I'm going to make my t-table. X and Y. Everybody pick an X value. What's it going to be? What's the easiest one to pick always? 0. So if I let X equal 0 and plug that in, what do I get for Y? Negative 1. So there's a point. Let's pick another point. Like, what about X equals 1? If I pick X equals 1 and I plug that in, what does Y turn out to be? 1. Yeah, I get 2 times 1 is 2 minus 1 is 1. So I got 2 points, 0, negative 1, and 1, 1. Okay? So now, to graph that line, I just go down here and click on this guy. Click on the tool, the graphing tool. Okay? And, oops, hang on, I gotta do this. There we go. Okay, there's my graphing tool. Okay? And then all I have to do to graph this, I'm going to use those points. So I have to pick what kind of object am I graphing. So which of those buttons am I pushing? Yeah, I'm going to push the, notice it says line tool. I pick the line tool, and then I'm just going to come over to the XY plane, and I'm going to plot those points. So I want to plot the point 0, -1 first. So I go 0, x equals 0, y equals -1. Now notice that it gives me up here, it gives me the coordinates of the point. So I know that I'm getting the right point. As I move around that pointer around in the XY plane to choose a point, I'll see those coordinates change. Okay? So that's the correct point. So I'm going to click there and lay down 1 point. Now my other point I need to be at 1, 1. So I go over 1 and up 1, and there it is. Let's say I picked the wrong point. Say I pick that one. Okay, and I save it. Then I look at it and I say, oh, that's the wrong point. So then I can click on the line and go back up here and click on that point. And you guys can do this. I can't for some reason, but you can actually go down and you can change that to a 1. You can just type in a 1 and it'll move the point. For some reason I can't do that. So I'm just going to go up and drag that point down to where it's supposed to be, and then I'll check my answer and it's correct. Okay, make sense? Everybody got it? Okay? All right. I'm going to shut up. You guys go. So if you're done with the test, you can work on this 3.1 assignment. Otherwise, you should work on finishing up the test.